Number 7. You must know the nature of racism. The ultimate dilemma for parents of African American youth is approaching the teaching of Racism 101 in our homes. If we focus too much on it, the scars from the resulting victimhood syndrome could be just as crippling as dealing with the most ignorant of white people. If we approach it too harshly, we stand a good risk of making our children bitter and angry and hostile, which would cut our youth off from even the simple pleasures and goodness of life. We are fearful that they might be so negatively tainted that they would waste their lives chasing the down with the white man con game. There's a whole industry that gets paid by convincing black people with low self-esteem that all of their problems are the fault of racism. It is a hustle. However, we must approach this important subject matter of racism. Racism is a fact of life in America. By failing to address the issue of racism is like being stranded in a house with no windows. We couldn't very well ignore the fact that we are exposed to the cold, harsh winters, as well as the scorching heat of the summer. To properly cover the issue of racism is the equivalent of putting windows so that we could shield ourselves from an environment that can be harsh to the African Americans. It is directly related to this bus wreck, you see. So how do we address this issue properly? How do we continue the cleanup effort after the wreck? Well, once again, we must know that the key to this dilemma is understanding. We must understand what is before us here. And that means we must go back to the plantation and visit with the Willie Lynch system, which is the basis for the racism that we encounter today. This is not rocket science, folks. Firstly, we must understand that there is something critically wrong with the thinking of not only the enslaved Africans after we were brainwashed. We must also look very closely at the insane behavior of plantation masters. Look, just because someone has a big plantation with lots of money, land, and stuff doesn't mean that that individual is sane. Look at the Thomas Jefferson debacle. This man allegedly fathered illegitimate children with his dead wife's black teenage sister. He also enslaved her and the children that they had together. Now, by any other account, this is insane behavior. He might have been able to speak and write well, but he apparently had serious racial and sexual problems. We must understand that these people were absolutely out of their minds to carry out such a system against other human beings. Slavery was not only about making other human beings work without pay. Slavery was also about rape. African women were raped repeatedly throughout their lives by so-called masters, field hands, and other savage brutes. There were very few, if any, African American women who escaped being brutally raped at least once